1, 2. Is this on?
Wrestling fans love watching out-of-character interviews where stars past and present speak candidly. Most of these conversations take place without issue, but on rare occasions they can go off the rails.
You want to talk to me like this ain't real? I got no, don't act all tough, lad. Don't act all tough.
The wrestler might get angry at the interviewer due to their line of questioning, thus creating an awkward and uncomfortable tension.
Was part of you angry at your father for what happened?
Don't ever fucking ask me that question again. How the fuck would I be angry? Don't ask me about how he died. How do you think I would fucking feel, bro?
Today we'll look at various shoot interviews, media appearances, and podcasts in which wrestlers flipped out for real.
I've been doing this for fucking 40 years, and you're asking me who the fuck's my biggest...
All right, you're a fucking worthless... You're a fucking worthless drunk. Go to hell, you worthless loser.
As we highlight real-life wrestling interviews gone wrong.
Now Booker T rips up John's question.
He takes the question.
Yes.
Yeah, he got pissed.
You don't like me that much, do you?
I don't like you at all.
8 seconds.
You're not gonna kick my ass or anything.
I'm getting close to kicking your ass.
Before we start the list, let's cover The Rock on Opie and Anthony in 2000. On the show's online forum, one of their staff had written awful remarks about some of the black wrestlers in WWF. Rock got wind of this and called out those in charge of the forum.
Quoting saying that Jacqueline is from the jungle and Mark Henry's a monkey, and whether or not The Rock wants to rob houses because he's half black or he wants to eat because he's half Samoan. Quite frankly, I find that offensive.
The Rock then promptly walked out on the interview.
And if you guys have anything to do with this guy, I quite frankly don't want anything to do with this guy.
Honestly, I've never read any of that stuff on the site. When you have an open forum, especially on the internet, there's not really much you can do about it.
And we'll also highlight Australian prankster Champ Chong, who annoyed Dean Ambrose before WrestleMania 31.
So, I'm here with Seth Rollins. Thoughts on WrestleMania?
Is that like a joke?
What do you mean a joke?
It wasn't funny. Are we on camera right now?
Yeah.
We got to talk about WrestleMania? What's going on?
Where'd you get that shirt?
Now to the list. One way to upset wrestlers in an interview is by questioning if the sport they do is real. This question and one similar to it have been asked in a few different mainstream interviews.
How much of wrestling is fake?
0.
None at all?
Nothing.
Saying that wrestling's fake. I broke so many people's thumbs because I would explain to them, you know, listen, you can't see pain, you can only feel it.
I think this is fake.
You think it's fake?
What's that? Is that fake? You think it's fake? You come.
They say this wrestling is not for real, is it?
Does that fucking feel fake, huh? Does that feel fake?
But for this entry, we're going back to 1999, when the stars of WCW appeared on Bill Maher's Politically Incorrect show. Maher started the interview off on a bad tone.
People know that you're not really beating each other up.
Okay, we got a long...
Stop right there.
The wrestlers shut Bill down straight out.
And you're telling me that you're really hitting each other?
When a metal chair cracks your back, that's not fake.
With Roddy Piper in particular putting Maher firmly in his place.
There's never a bruise on any of you.
Metal hip. See that wrist? 7 years it's been broken. Owen Hart, dead. Why don't you go tell Mrs. Hart what a joke it is?
Maher concludes the segment with a new appreciation for wrestling he clearly didn't have before.
You know what? You guys have me. I don't know what's real and what's not. Take a break. We'll be right back.
Next, we have one of the shortest radio interviews a wrestler has ever done. It went down in January 2014 when Cincinnati, Ohio radio host Kid Chris upset Kane. The Big Red Machine was meant to be promoting an upcoming WWE house show in the local area, but he wasn't in the mood for messing around after a joke referencing his past Isaac Yankem gimmick failed to land. The wise remark didn't go down well, which Kane made clear.
Kane, you're on the line with Kid Chris. Kid Chris, you're on the line with WWE Superstar Kane.
Man, is it Kane or are we talking to Isaac Yankem?
Hey, man, why don't we do this interview some other time, all right? No, I'm serious, dude. Have a good day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What? Okay.
The last host was trying to clown around, but our next example features a serious question that offended the talent involved. This interview was done by James DeLoe, who produces the Gorilla Position podcast. In 2013, James asked Randy Orton about getting hit from behind by a fan, which happened the week prior during a house show in South Africa. James misread the situation, thinking it could have been part of the show. You can see Orton's tone completely shift after being asked if the attack was scripted.
That wasn't a work, no? No. We pressed charges and the guy's in jail still. Oh, yeah. Did you think it was a work? No, but there's a lot of internet rumors, isn't there? Because you sold for him and everything. The internet, well, he hit me in the balls.
Yeah.
Randy probably had to get up early and do lots of media that day. Plus, with the fan incident being so fresh, a question like this was bound to agitate him.
What you might conceive as a work or a shoot, like you have no idea what's real and what's not. You thought it was a work because you read it on the internet?
No, I didn't think. I just.
Oh, okay. Right. Rumors. I love the internet.
It's strange industry, isn't it?
Oh, strange indeed.
Next, we have another interview with a third-generation wrestler. Curtis Axel didn't speak much publicly following his WWE release in 2020. One of the few interviews he's done since his departure was conducted by Monty and the Pharaoh in 2024. The conversation began fine until the host incorrectly noted how great Axel's speech was when inducting his father, Kurt Hennig, into the 2007 Hall of Fame. Axel was on stage for the induction but didn't speak.
What are you talking about? I never talked about anything like that.
When you did the Hall of Fame speech introducing your father, right? You did speak during that, correct?
I didn't do it. I didn't do a Hall of Fame speech.
I thought you spoke during his induction. I apologize if I'm wrong.
Things truly went off the rails after the host Monty brought up Kurt Hennig's death. The line of questioning appeared to hint at the nature of Hennig's passing, which was caused by an overdose.
Was part of you angry at your father for what happened?
Don't ever fucking ask me that question again.
I apologize. I was just asking you how you felt.
How the fuck would I be angry? Don't ask me about how he died.
It wasn't like that kind of question.
How do you think I would fucking feel, bro?
The interview had already been emotional for Axel, as he tearfully remembered his late grandfather and Bray Wyatt. However, this time it was a different reaction, given the type of question about his dad.
How did that affect your grandfather? Obviously, it was terrible for him too. Did you guys ever discuss that? And like, how'd your grandfather handle it?
Question, man. Like, what the fuck? How do you think, man? It's his son.
Some fans have speculated that Axel may have been drinking before the interview due to his behavior. Next, we have an interview that definitely contained alcohol and ended because of it. We're referring to wrestler Devin Nicholson's interview with the Goon on the Hannibal TV YouTube channel in 2021. The Goon was clearly wasted as he struggled to remember things while giving standoffish, closed answers.
I understand you were trained by your brother Scott as well as Vern Gagne.
Vern Gagne has nothing. Let me just say it again. Nothing to do with my training. Nothing.
The Goon eventually got fed up and crashed out after being asked if getting squashed by The Undertaker in 1997 was his most famous match.
I don't know how to answer that question. That's like, who's your biggest match? What the hell?
Even though this clearly was the Goon's biggest match, his reaction here ultimately ended the conversation as Hannibal cut off the boozed up Goon.
I've been doing this for fucking 40 years and you're asking me who the fuck's my biggest
All
match?
right, you're a fucking worthless. You're a fucking worthless drunk. Go to hell, you worthless loser.
Thank you.
The Goon later complained about not getting paid by Hannibal, despite the drunken Goon being in no condition to be interviewed.
He was kind of pissing me off a little bit with, telling me that he knows. Anyway, we didn't get along. So, but I was supposed to be paid for that. And, he got all upset and cut it off, but he ran it. I never got paid.
He was supposed to be paid for an hour-long interview. He only completed 17 minutes of that interview. That's a situation between me and his agent. That's going to be dealt with.
The Goon was a rare example of a shoot interview going wrong in the modern age, something that was more common back in the infancy of shoots. Case in point when Virgil went off on two gentlemen trying to interview him back in the day. Firstly, the former $1 million champion wasn't pleased with the conditions of the interview.
You got this little bullshit chair right here. Well, maybe we could prop it up a little. No, I'm supposed to give me some more money. I'll sit in this chair properly,
No. Okay. We don't pay you anyway.
The host wanted Virgil to give more detailed answers. However, the former NWO head of security wasn't going to budge.
You also give us a little bit lengthier in your answers. You gotta say what you want, man. Okay. Sometimes I ain't gonna go talk for an hour on shit. You know what I mean? Okay. My shit is short and sweet when I say something. I get right to the point and I say it. I don't go beating around saying a bunch of bullshit to make up time.
Virg even coached the interviewers on how to ask questions.
You need to practice more interviews. Okay, you gotta know how to interact with someone. You answer. You say the question. I'm answering the question, and you can be like, and you say something else, and I'll answer. Right, and say, can you speak on that some more? That type of thing, Okay, now look at my damn drink.
We go from one Vincent to another. Vince McMahon also has a history of getting riled up during interviews with the mainstream media.
They were part of your organization. They worked a couple of hundred nights a year for you. They lived this lifestyle.
Oh my God! These individuals worked for our organization at one time. They also work for other organizations.
But perhaps Vince's most famous TV interview was conducted by Bob Costas on HBO in 2001, where Costas went in on McMahon over the failure of the XFL.
If you could be guaranteed that it would increase ratings, would you fix the games?
Would I What a ridiculous statement.
Costas also lamented the WWF's raunchy storylines and their depiction of women.
Crotch grabbing, people grabbing their crotches, pointing in that direction and saying, suck it. 11 and 12-year-old kids in the audience.
The conversation was incredibly heated, with Vince losing his cool over Costas constantly interrupting.
No, it's right.
These things don't happen. They haven't happened.
You want to let me finish here for a second, pal? Coach, shut your mouth and let me answer the question, all right? I'll be happy to answer.
I can back up and look timid. Or when he comes forward, I can come forward. And you notice there, I didn't really say anything, but I smiled at him. And that made him angrier still.
I'm seeing myself, Vince, if he were only about 6'3", you would kill him.
A calmer Vince was interviewed again by Costas a year later, this time with the XFL dead and the WWF now called WWE.
He says McMahon likes to pretend that his product is sports entertainment, but it's really more of a violence variety show filled with state-of-the-art gay bashing, gang violence, spousal violence, woman-on-woman violence, sometimes in vats of pudding, and violence against animals.
Given the chairman's track record, one of Howard Stern's missions attempted to trigger Vince in 2003 at the WrestleMania 19 press conference. McMahon had to take questions from Stern regular, Stuttering John, who attempted to prank Vince.
And this feud with Hulk Hogan, is that real, or is that just like fake, like, you know?
We don't do anything fake.
Well, you know, wrestling is fake, though, right?
No, where the hell are you been?
Come on,
What's the matter with you, huh? Wrestling is fake.
Well, you know what I mean. It's
I don't know what you mean.
Well, it's entertainment. It's not real fighting, you know.
Not.
McMahon remained professional, but you could tell he was ticked off. The questions were getting on his nerves, so much so that he attempted to walk away.
What do you think of the French?
How brilliant are you? Wait a minute now. You gotta hold up and ask questions. You gotta read off a piece of paper.
Not
and
really,
ask
but I mean, I just want to see if there's anything that I haven't asked.
French are fairies. Everybody knows that.
Oh, I like that, Vince. Hey, Vince. You have a message for Saddam Hussein?
Saddam Hussein, no.
After one last silly question, Vince insulted the host to cap off this train wreck interview.
Are you amazed by all the white trash that comes out to CD shows?
We don't have any white trash. With the exception of present company.
Oh, come on, Vince. You've done the show,
you ever look
right?
at yourself in the mirror?
What do you think of Howard?
You're not white trash?
Of course not. What do you think of Howard Stern?
That was great.
All right, I'll see you soon.
On Stern the year prior, Stuttering John was again tormenting a wrestler. This time it was Booker T. John tried to make fun of Booker fresh off the former 5-time WCW champion's appearance on the Weakest Link.
What October federal holiday celebrates the discovery of America?
Thanksgiving.
No, Columbus Day.
Book struggled to answer anything correctly on the show, so the interviewer here asked him similar questions as a way of making fun of Booker.
What state did the New Orleans...
Wait.
Oh, come on, Booker.
So now Booker T rips up John's question.
He takes the question.
Yes.
Yeah, he got pissed.
You don't like me that much, do you? I don't like you at all.
8 seconds.
You're not gonna kick my ass or anything. I'm getting close to kicking your ass.
Booker wasn't having any of it. He was already in a bad mood because he had a migraine headache that day, so this interview just set him off even more.
But I don't support Howard Stern.
So you don't want me to ask you any more of these questions? This is fun.
Not any more of those stupid questions.
Book then threw shade at the Stern show and Howard himself.
Aren't you a Howard Stern fan?
No, I'm not a Howard Stern fan. Actually, I'm not.
Oh, why?
Because he's off into degrading women.
The WWF doesn't degrade women.
I hope you don't cut this part of this show out.
No.
I hope you don't
cut it out. We
would never.
I love when people are critical of me.
Booker later appeared on Stern to bury the hatchet while reflecting on the previous interview.
Do you have any beef with Stuttering John?
But if someone want to come on television and try to insult me, you know, I have a beef with them. Yeah, I do. I've had a long night. I've worked pretty hard, and I got a migraine headache, and then I got a guy asking me stupid questions.
Right.
I think that was the insult. That
was insulting. That's true.
Yeah, because he thought I was going to rip his head off because I told him I was going to rip his head off. And I said, "You ain't stuttering now. You're not stuttering now." He got so scared, man.
Stern insulted wrestling, even though this type of content he produced back then was also risque. However, Stern wasn't the last media personality to disrespect the sport, as it still happens to this day, like in 2024 when hometown star Grayson Waller stood up for his business on daytime TV in Australia. There was some friendly banter in the beginning, but the male host and production member took it too far when they tried to get Waller to perform wrestling moves on them.
I don't think you understand. Like, if I come over there right now, we're going to have the police here because I'm not going to give you some fake punch. Like, I'm going to punch you straight in the jaw.
Legally, Grayson couldn't demonstrate any moves, but it was the host and production assistant's behavior that really angered him, since they were completely looking down on wrestling.
You want to talk to me like this ain't real? Don't act all tough, lad. Don't act all tough.
The people on the show seemed to think that Waller was in character, but wrestling fans knew that wasn't the case. Had Grayson been playing along, he would have never used the word fake when threatening to punch the PA.
I won't have these guests disrespected like that, Mitch. You get out.
thought you were tough.
Now, can you wrap this up?
Hold your pants tight.
There was no heat on Waller following the incident. Instead, he received universal praise from wrestling fans and those within the industry.
What if someone presses you? It gets that disrespectful.
I mean, I feel like I would try and decline it as much as possible, and if they kept pestering, I'd probably end up doing something like what Grayson did. At the end of the day, it's disrespectful to the business, especially when you keep prodding and asking.
Grayson reflected on the incident during an interview with Chris Van Vliet.
I hate when people disrespect what we do and treat it as a joke. But I think it's something that we need to protect what we do. And it's just like, if someone's so disrespectful to your face, like, you got to do it. I'm not going to sit there and take it. I'm not going to hit him, but I would have got in his face and told him what I thought of him.
Michael Landsberg hosted some great out-of-character interviews on TSN's Off the Record in the late 90s and early 2000s.
What'd you do what Deborah does?
Which is?
Puppies?
As my father put, that I heard, I'm not quite as built as Deborah is.
They're just smaller puppies, that's all.
Thank you. You don't have to elaborate.
They're cute.
Thank you.
Examples include when Hulk Hogan and Mick Foley threw shots at each other in separate interviews.
I would probably say I've trained more in the last week than Mick Foley's trained in 30 years. You know, I went ahead while Mick Foley was sleeping and eating cheeseburgers and M&Ms. I was in the gym working out.
I think if Hulk Hogan were to have wrestled me in his career, that he would sound more or less like a whiny girl in a porno film saying, not so fast and not so hard, because he didn't like the contact.
One of Landsberg's best interviews was with CM Punk, after Punk had agreed to fight in the UFC.
I hope you don't find this disrespectful, but have you actually taken a real punch?
You're going to ask me if I've ever taken a real punch in the face?
Yeah.
You obviously hadn't seen some of the guys I was wrestling in the WWE.
Landsberg poked fun at Punk to try and get the Chicago native to fire back.
Are you kind of pissed off with the questions that I've asked?
They're very wrestling-centric, and, you know, I'm here to talk about UFC. You have an agenda. It's okay.
Oh, I don't have an agenda, but what am I going to ask you about UFC? You're not a UFC fighter. You don't have a fight scheduled.
It seemed to work as Punk ultimately called out Landsberg for how the host was behaving.
You try to be friendly. You try to act like you're my friend, and then when you get me on camera, you try to act like the cool kid in school. So you want to play innocent and defensive when you're not on camera, and then when you get on camera, you want to act like you're hot.
Landsberg in turn threw shade at Punk for drinking coffee during the interview as the segment came to a close.
And it is disrespectful somewhat to be drinking coffee or tea while you're in the middle of an interview. I don't know if you do that all the time, but I
gotta stay awake on TSN. I need my caffeine.
Next, we'll look at a case where a wrestler felt he was asked to appear on a show under false pretenses, as Diamond Dallas Page was interviewed on Nancy Grace in 2014 to talk about the sudden death of the Ultimate Warrior. Instead of celebrating Warrior's life, which DDP believed he was going on the show for, Nancy tried to connect the Warrior and other wrestlers' premature deaths to steroid usage.
He's admitted that he used steroids.
Yeah, back in the day, a lot of we all used them back in the day, but
Whoa. No, we didn't all. I've never used steroids. Why do so many die at such a young age? I mean, you've got to take into account the steroids and drugs.
Well, for starters, I think you got to look at where it is today.
On Sam Roberts' Sirius XM show, Page later noted how upset he was after being set up by Grace.
I was so pissed.
How far into the interview did you realize,
Oh, pretty quickly. She started talking about the steroid scandals and blah, blah, blah. Like, wait a minute, that was 25 years ago.
What do you do after the show? Like, what do you do once the segment's over and she goes, well, thank you, Dallas, for joining us?
But I know I said something in a way of like, go fuck yourself, but I didn't say that.
Sam Roberts later addressed the false claims made by Nancy during his interview with her.
Steroids weren't involved in the Ultimate Warrior's death.
No, they were not.
A lot of wrestlers see your report and come back at you with venom, saying you're not representing us, you're not telling our story, and this what you're portraying isn't what's happening.
And I'm sorry they feel that way. I really don't know what else you want me to say.
But I'm not worried about it.
You haven't asked one decent question since I walked in here. Everything both of you have asked has been an attack. I think our time is up. Bye-bye.
Take care. You can leave if you want. Don't worry, we're not going to kill ourselves after the interview.
Thanks, guys.
The Benoit family tragedy was also linked to steroid use, leading to a who's who's of wrestlers appearing on mainstream TV to discuss the events of what transpired and the possible motives. It was a topic that caused much debate.
Let me finish. You stop interrupting me for a second. Why don't you sit here and keep interrupting me like this?
Did you ever take steroids? Ever?
The drug test is a ruse. It's an artifice designed specifically for these sensationalized high-profile tragedies. And don't even know if that's true, nor do you. But aside from that, we've had 5 under our watch.
It's disingenuous to say that you don't believe that there is suspected steroid use within the wrestling community.
No, I didn't. Did you hear me say that,
Well, what are you saying then, sir?
I didn't say that.
As you sit here and deny that you've ever seen any sort of kind of roid rage, which also seems to kind of stretch credibility, but what if in fact that it does come back?
Have you ever taken steroids?
That it was because of steroids. Then
I'm
what?
asking you a question. Have you ever taken steroids?
No, I have not taken steroids.
And she can prove it because I don't think you get that muscular thing. Thank you very much, Kevin, for being with us.
I'm just saying, you're doubting my credibility. I've taken them and I haven't seen it.
All right, so we thank you very
I know
much
that's
for your
not
time,
what
Kevin.
you want to hear.
Our penultimate entry is one where the host gets uncomfortable, that being social media personality and WWE star Logan Paul. In 2024, Logan interviewed Dominic Mysterio on the Impulsive podcast. With Dom being such a big heel on WWE television at the time, a lot of his answers were half in character, including when he quizzed Logan on being absent from WWE's recent tour of Japan.
For some reason, we have, well, you've never been? There's a great... I have prior obligations.
Paul had essentially been barred from Japan after he filmed a video there in December 2017, which showed the lifeless body of someone hanging from a tree in a forest. Logan gets visibly uneasy when Dominic asks him about the country.
Can you go?
Bro, Dom, what do you think this? Yes, I can go to Japan.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
No, I can go to Japan.
I didn't know if you were like, you know, shadow banned or something.
Bro.
Yeah. Dom and the co-host Mike had a good laugh while Paul got more and more distressed until he finally had enough.
Be a real heel there.
I mean, we get invited. Oh, yeah, you would. Dude, especially if you show up with the, you know, the hat.
Bro, stop, Dom, stop. That was too far. That was actually too far, bro.
I'm just, as a heel, you know. That was too far,
Let's close things out with one of the last wrestlers you'd expect to see doing public interviews. None other than the beast incarnate, Brock Lesnar. After he returned to WWE in 2012, Lesnar essentially turned into a caveman who wasn't going to do anything he didn't want to. He's spoken a handful of times in public since, including when he had to do a press for the 2K17 video game.
What would you tell a gamer who was competing against you in the ring?
Get a life. Go get a job.
Because Brock was the cover star, he was given media commitments which you could tell he didn't want to do.
Let's talk about SummerSlam. Randy Orton this weekend. You guys have very rarely wrestled before. I think you might have once before, and I might have been there. It might have been Madison Square Garden in a dark match.
When Sam Roberts spoke to the Beast, he opened with one of his catchphrases which set the tone for Brock's mood.
Brock, what's the haps?
Oh, God. The what?
Haps?
What's the haps? Yeah. What does that mean?
It's like, what's the haps, you know?
I don't know, man.
You don't.
Sam then asked Brock about Conor McGregor, who had recently badmouthed WWE and its talent.
I take shits bigger than that kid, all right? I know you guys all play fucking video games and you live in this fucking false sense of reality and shit. I got fucking about 10 words for him. Leave me and the fucking WWE out of it because I came to your arena and kicked ass. Now, if you want, and if you're so fucking tough, come to our arena and try to kick some ass. Get the fuck out of here.
You might say Lesnar was in character during these interviews, but let's not forget that Brock's real-life self is essentially the same person we see on TV. His answers and behavior in these interviews certainly reflect Lesnar both inside the ring and out.
We got about 3 questions.
Sure.
Okay.
WWE 2K.
You got 2.
Tomorrow night.
That's 2. That's 3, actually.
That's been me and Brock Lesnar.
Now if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our similar video on 10 WWE moments that made Vince McMahon lose it backstage. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.